All right, good evening, Patriots. As Annette said, my name is Casey McKeon. I'm a third generation HB resident. Grew up here, went to Marina High School, OCC, and then USC. Campaigned last year for City Council with Tito and Gracie. And that experience, being thrust into politics, changed my life for the better. Since then, I'm fully engaged in the city and the ongoings and the machinations, if you will, the chaos at City Hall. Been on the Investment Advisory Board, the Finance Commission, and right now really work with Kelly Irby on the precinct team. You guys haven't heard about it. Which is the army that's going to allow us to win back our city. So Annette thought it'd be a good idea for me to come up here and kind of update you guys on what's going on at City Hall because the list is long and not distinguished. So I figured I'll just start from the beginning. So after Tito was elected, it was nonstop character assassination from the far left that's on City Council. Mayor Carr, Dan Kalmick, Natalie Mosier, and unfortunately a few Republicans, Mike Posey and Barbara Del Glaze. They actually have a hit piece writer on their roster, Susan Goulding, and from the OC Register. So, classified information from Tito. I'm sure you guys heard about his little unemployment snafu. There's no way that anyone could have found out about that. That was submitted through the city manager, but somehow Susan Goulding just magically wrote an article about it the next day. So we did a public records request. I found out someone did a public records request if Tito had filed unemployment, which is physically impossible. So that means Tito filed, he got a PPP loan, so it was actually a business loan. And then that was leaked right to Susan Goulding, who did a hit piece. So it was character assassination. After character assassination, they went after his kids, released their names in the papers because they didn't wear masks to school one day. So that was the beginning of kind of just the unwinding of what's going on now. Then they voted for CCE, which is Community Choice Energy. So I don't know if you guys know, but we are now in the energy business in Huntington Beach. So they feel in their infinite wisdom that they can buy and procure energy better than Southern California Edison can. And our analogy is, it's like owning a liquor store and thinking you can sell booze cheaper than Costco. It's just not possible. Our sister county, Riverside, started their own CCE 2 years ago. They've already gone bankrupt. They've dissolved in less than 2 years. We warned about this. We fought against it. They didn't care, so they approved the CCE early in the year. That was actually the first thing they did with the new city council. In April, they voted to not sue Sacramento of their forced mandate that we zoned for 13,000 more affordable housing units in Huntington Beach. So if you guys, for a quick visual of what that looks like, if you guys know Elon at Beach and Ellis, that monstrosity high-density development, 13,000 units is the equivalent of 47 more of those in Huntington Beach. 47. Yeah. So they voted not to sue the state, and by doing so, they acquiesced our charter, essentially. They weakened our charter. Our charter was drafted to protect Huntington Beach from Sacramento's overreach. So they voted not to sue the state over that, which we'll get to a little bit later. June 1st, they forced, essentially, I'm sure if you guys saw as well, there was an hour-long city council meeting where they berated Tito, treated him like a child, Mike Posey especially, for an hour on Zoom. It was embarrassing, horrific. They tried to strip him of his mayor pro tem status. And unfortunately, on June 1st, they were successful. He resigned. And after that was a whirlwind of where we are today. They essentially would not honor the vote and appoint Gracie Vandermark, who got 4th place. She was the first runner-up. Excuse me. And it's the charter allows them to appoint whoever they want, but we just had an election. She campaigned. She worked hard. She knocked hundreds of doors. She earned those votes. At a minimum, if they weren't going to give us Gracie, we wanted a special election. Excuse me 1 second. Had a piece of salmon right before I walked up. Give us a special election. They feigned fiscal, responsibility. Oh, it's going to cost $1 million. It's going to cost too much. That night alone, they voted for $6 million more for consultants. But $1 million for a special election to give the residents a vote, no, they weren't going to do that. So instead, they had this circus show, a game show where, you know, the council members got to pick 3 people. Before that they had 105 people interview for the city council vacancy, okay? Then they had a circus show where they each got to pick 3 people, and this went on all night. They voted on the 3 and tried to get, you know, a majority for to pick who was gonna fill Tito's vacancy. They came to a stalemate. But what was interesting is the far left on council, Carr, Mosier, and Kalmick, kept bringing up this woman, Rhonda Bolton, and we had never heard of her. So we looked her up more in the auditorium, and you know, as bad as you can imagine, she's a civil rights attorney, a DC lobbyist. Her business is diversity, inclusion, and equity. So essentially, she works for IKEA right now. Companies hire her for her to tell them how undiverse they are. So she didn't campaign, she never ran for city council, so they came to a stalemate. And so we're gonna kick the can down a week and see if we can come back and get to consensus that we're nervous about Barbara Del Glaze would possibly turn. We mentioned it the next night, because the next night was actually a regular city council meeting. And sure enough, they came back a week later, and Barbara's supposed to be a Republican, even though I believe she changed her registered party preference in January, right? So she's no longer a Republican. Yeah, what's she now?
Common sense.
Sorry, Common Sense Party, that's what she's registered as. So all you know, we sent tons of emails to her. We asked her, please, just hold the line, because by July 31st, a special election would automatically been triggered. Just hold the line, stick to your fundamentals, give the people a voice. And so the next week came, and they went through all the public comments, and the meeting started, and Mayor Carr, because Barbara was supposed to speak and she just forgot apparently, was like, Barbara, don't you have something to say? She said, oh yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Carr. And just went their whole pitch, and she talked about how special this person was, and she decided to vote for Rhonda Bolton, and that immediately they moved to vote her in, and here we are. So again, this person's never run for city council. She did an interview with the residents. No one got to see her resume. No one got to see her knock on their door, campaign, etc. And so with that move, now there's a majority leftist city council, and they have just ramped up the pressure. That very same week during the chaos, they voted to issue government bonds to purchase that very same Elon building, plus the breakwater community behind Olive Garden, to create government subsidized housing on the backs of us, the taxpayers, as we will not receive property tax on those 2 properties for the next 30 years. By rough estimates, that's $15 million over the next 30 years that we will not receive in property tax. Property tax is our #1 source of revenue in the city. And what that does is it creates government subsidized housing, but also rent control. For the first rent control in the city, which is a very dangerous, slippery slope. Not many people knew that this happened. They just slipped that in. They parted up, they did it through a joint powers authority, which allows them to not have to go to the residents to obtain a vote to issue government bonds. So they issued 3 bonds, 1 bond for maintenance. They partnered up with a property management company called Catalyst. And if you look on their website, catalysthousing.com, they all focus on a new industry, government-funded housing, where they buy properties to promote equality, diversity. They said basically nurses, firemen, police that don't necessarily qualify for affordable housing, but don't make enough money to afford the cities they live in, which I think we all know is a false statement. So that is just the first step. That purchase alone is $365 million for those 2 properties. So that very next week, the residents finally had enough. They stood up, and they issued a recall for 6 of 7 city council members. So everyone except for Eric Peterson. Voting record alone, Eric did not vote for any of the things I just mentioned. He actually had to bring up the issue to sue the state over the housing numbers. That's the main thing we're focused on, is they're weakening our charter. So if you guys want to get involved, go to savesurfcity.org. Please register, sign up, go to ocgop.org, right Kelly? Or is it .com? For the .org? OCGOP.org to sign up for the precinct team. We need to build the army. We're pushing hard now for the Newsom recall. We're gonna fold it into the HB recall. Then we're also gonna fold it in next year for the city council race. We've also got 12 so far of the 9 moms required to run for our 3 school boards. So they're fired up. We need to organize. And, last but not least, I was also voted to be this year's Huntington Harbor Grand Marshal of the Boat Parade. So we need to break the record this year. The theme is American Dream, Rock the Harbor. Eric Peterson was Grand Marshal last year. I think he had 85 votes. I won 100. They said the numbers only go up to 99, so we have to handwrite it in. So please go to hhboatparade.org. Yeah, I need a big boat too. I need a yacht. Cora, I'm talking to you. So please help us out. Sign up, we need boats. Yeah, let's celebrate. Let's have a good time. Yeah. So that's a quick synopsis. It's terrifying. I can go into detail all night long, but if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Yeah.
They don't even count for the 33,000.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's a really good point. Is these homes that these Elon and Breakwater that they've purchased, those units don't even count towards our 13,000 affordable housing units. Yeah. No, it's 13,000 right now over the next 7 years. But those houses don't, like those homes don't even go towards that number. What's even worse now is we have in lieu fees for developers. So instead of providing affordable housing, they can just pay in lieu fees instead. So there's just no end in sight. We will never hit these numbers. It's really important. Diane Dixon, who's part of OCOG, actually voted to sue for Sacramento against these numbers. So Mike Posey actually voted as part of that board to sue the state, but yet he did not vote as part of his own city to sue the state.
But doesn't the council want to make the attorney an appointment as opposed to an elected position?
Yeah, so they also want to remove our wonderful city attorney, Michael Gates. They want to remove him from being an elected attorney that represents the residents to being an appointed attorney. And so that's the next step you're going to see is them chipping away. They made him settle a lawsuit for 2 disgruntled employees who just weren't performing. They had every right. They sued. The city council made him settle for political reasons, which cost us $2.5 million, by the way, or like I said at the dais, 2 special elections. So they're coming after him next. So it's really important that we get this recall going.
Two questions.
Yeah.
One of which is, I think former mayor and current councilman Diane Dixon from Newport Beach, I think we're very similar cities.
Yep.
Yet what they have done is much different. They haven't had any of this, if I may so say, crap going on in their city.
Right.
So
We turned those things down.
yeah, you absolutely did. And I wish the second thing, I wish you would comment on what can happen to a person living in a neighborhood, a single-family houses. What could happen to the house right next to them?
Yeah, so if you guys in here, Dave is asking what could happen to your single-family home. Well, the 2 bills in the state up in Sacramento right now, SB 9 and SB 10, is trying to decimate all single-family zoning. So you can build up to 12 units next door with no parking requirements. By right. So it's not going to stop. The high-density situation is not going to stop. We have to unite. We have to fight back. You guys are all here tonight for a reason. It's really important. In the back.
Yeah, I just had a question. Is this a done deal with the purchase of the property?
Yes, it's a done deal.
Can't get out of it?
Can't get out of it.
Can't sue? Can't-
Nope. Nope. Can't get out of it. Done. They closed escrow, I think, last week. Yep.
You just get rid of that?
Yeah, I mean, we could. No, we're locked in for a minimum 15 years, and there's huge.
How about class action lawsuit?
I'm sure. I'm not an attorney. Mr. Todd Spitzer is going to speak in a minute. And
I give you all legal advice.
Yeah, no, we got tons of legal advice.
Yeah, on free legal advice.
One Marcus, Todd's got to speak.
Yeah, there's one thing about, bad policy with these crazy Democrats, but Because a part of it, to me, is criminal. So has anybody looked into like who's funding them? Like, is it trickling down from George Soros? Or these people should be put in jail, not just recalled.
Yeah.
They should be put in jail.
Yeah, we haven't dug that deep. I mean, it's just,
Emerge program.
yeah, Emerge California is a college, if you guys don't know, that Kamal Harris started, where they actually groom soccer mom women and indoctrinate them in leftist politics. It's a vocational training, 7-month program, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Mayor Kim Carr graduated from there. Natalie Mosier is on city council, graduated from there. So that's one thing. But it's just, follow the money, follow the developer, Shop Off, who did the tank farm rezoning on the south side of Huntington Beach. So you have a point, but it's just going down the rabbit hole of where it is.
Casey,
Yeah.
are you running for city council?
I can't say no to that, right? I can't say no to that, guys. Of course, no. Right now, I'm really fighting hard. Just there's so much, and Grace and I are on the front lines, and we're doing the precinct team. But I mean, I can't let you guys down. You know that.